Leslie Huddart here. I'm a spiritual guide and natural health expert, and I help seekers, empaths, and healers take their life to the next level through subtle body certification and trainings on the path of self-mastery. In this episode, we're talking about how to build your intuition. Specifically, how do I know when I'm really trusting my inner voice versus the thinking mind, plus a straightforward secret weapon to really boosting your intuition through your body. Having great intuition is an excellent way to increase your success in life, to waste less time and energy following down roads and opportunities and relationships with people that aren't for you. So if you have great intuition, you have a better internal guidance system. The problem is that it can be hard to trust your intuition, so you need to know that you're actually building your intuition and flexing it like a muscle in the right way. And when I talk about intuition, I'm not talking about some woo-woo psychic thing that only certain people have. Intuition is a natural ability to tap into the more subtler aspects of life that are just as real as the other ones. We're just not trained by mainstream society and education to factor those in. In fact, I think some people are using intuition and might not even know that it's intuition at all. So the important thing is to also build our discernment along with the intuition so we can actually learn to trust it and make sure it's not just some passing thought. In this episode, we're going to go over the 3 major things that are important for doing just that. This is a really important topic, especially when someone is starting on their more personal spiritual growth path and starting to get in touch with these things more. And so I have a whole separate free video training, and I'll put the link into that below for those of you that want to go deeper. So point number 1, it's important to understand the mind. Now, the mind, or what we call the mind, can mean a lot of things. And if you're like me and sort of have been a long time healer and you're into the sort of nerdy spiritual aspects of the mind and the different layers, you can go really deep in that. And a resource that I really like from the tradition of Vedanta that's very helpful is the Tattva-bodha, which is a traditional text by Shankaracharya that goes through all of the nitty-gritty points of what's the mind and what's the subtle body and how those things are putting together. So not everybody's going to be interested in that, but if that's you, there's a link to one of my favorite commentaries below that's a pretty easy read. It's still pretty dense. What I want you to think about for this point number 1 of understanding the mind is that to make it very simple or basic, we're going to dissect 2 aspects of the mind that you need to know about. And for this purpose, we're going to call it the thinking mind and the inner voice. So take out a piece of paper, make some notes. We're going to go through how to differentiate between these 2 inner voices, which is key in building your intuition. Now, the thinking mind is the mind that you're most familiar with. This is the mind that has the running commentary of thoughts in your daily life. It's the things that you think. It's the things that maybe you might think are you. It's not actually you. That's a whole nother video. It's just your thinking mind. So the thinking mind is our conscious mind. It tends to be very forward in our sense of our thoughts. On the other hand, the inner voice is more this quiet sort of background presence. So you'll hear it sometimes, but it's not up front in your face like the thinking mind. It's a little bit quieter towards the back. And it's conscious, but it's a little bit more of what we could call our higher mind, or the part of our mind that is a little closer to or in touch with the deeper parts of ourselves, whether we call that our soul or our higher mind. These are all kind of names for concepts that have a very similar overlap. So whereas the thinking mind tends to be more aggressive, more interrupting, the inner voice mind has a little bit more stillness. It often requires asking and listening for it to really speak, whereas the thinking mind is going to like interrupt your conversation. Also, differentiation of what voice is talking is that the thinking voice or the thinking mind tends to be, can be a little bit more snarky, can a little bit be more judgmental, and it sends out more like warnings, but usually warnings in sort of a negative kind of sarcastic way. Like, you don't want to do that. We don't want to go there. What are people going to think? Remember what happened last time? Those are all thinking voice mind commentary. Whereas the inner voice, you'll notice that this voice, when it's happening, is more objective. It's much less emotional. So it doesn't usually come across as sarcastic. It's not condemning. It's just more objective. And in that way, the inner voice, you can tell if you're hearing the inner voice, it has this more abiding sort of sense, this presence of like, there's no rush. I'm here over time. These are the things that we know. So in a way, when we're listening to our inner voice, we're listening to more of this knowing sense. Whereas the thinking mind tends to have more of a constant change of one day it says this and the other day it says this. It may still say the same, but it's going to have that like more aggressive quality. The thinking mind, to understand a little about is part of what I call our protector system. And the protector system's job is to keep us safe, which is good. But the problem is that it's a little bit misguided. So in the thinking mind's effort to protect us, it often shuts us down and tells us stories in ways that are not intuition. It's just really the protector system doing its kind of mind thing. And the third part, which I think is the most powerful for really building your intuition and having a positive feedback loop, is to ask your body. Now, this is something I teach all the time in my subtle body certification and self-mastery classes. To be able to really use your body is your best sense of intuition, because your body actually has a more direct connection to your soul and your unconscious than your thinking mind. The problem is that the thinking mind is very strong and very sneaky. So if you're only relying on the mind thoughts to help build your intuition, it's likely that you're missing things or you're getting thrown off because of the sneakiness of the mind. However, the body does not lie. So I teach a whole sort of simple process that you can learn to start to ask your body about intuitive kind of questions and use that as a guidance. That's a whole nother 20-minute video training. There's a link to that below. What you can use in the meantime, though, is just this question of, if there's something that's coming up, notice, how does it feel in my body? And very simply, you can lean towards two different things. When I think about this question, or when I'm asking for guidance or looking for intuition, I notice in my body, when I'm thinking about that thing, do I get a more expansive feeling, which could be lightness, which could be opening? It has this sort of motion to it. Or that's usually more of a yes, expansive. Or do I get a sort of no, contracting, pit in my stomach kind of feeling? So it has more of a curling in, moving back, gut type of feeling. This is generally a no. So we often even use this expression, trust the gut, or ooh, I just had a gut feeling about it. That's because your body has better intuition than your mind. So if you can use the body in a very simple way of just expansive or contractive, and there's more ways to go deeper into that, but integrating the body is one of the biggest things in order to build your intuition. So we've covered the three major things that you need to really build your intuition and your discernment. In Sanskrit, your viveka, your ability to discern what's true and what's not, and vary in a microcosmic way what's my thinking mind, which I don't really want to trust, which is based on protection and usually fear, versus my inner voice, which is a closer connection to my knowing, this abiding sense of my truer, deeper self. And by knowing, number two, the qualities of what each of those voices sound like, you can start to identify them and boost the conversation with your inner voice and turn down the volume on your thinking mind. And to double check and create even better discernment and intuition, you run it past your body, which really has a strong sense, which knows better than your mind the unconscious and desires of your soul. I hope these guidance things have helped you. You are a soul with a body. You deserve great things in life, and your personal spiritual growth is important. I'm Leslie Huddart, wishing you well, and I'll see you next time.